You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherlands calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Moments with you before Brother Taagiy joins us. How are you doing? How's everyone doing in your respective areas, in your corners? Are you fine? Yeah, so Brother Taagiy will be joining us just in a minute, and it's been a long while, and I thought that, I should just share some wonderful pictures of his event. This brother has been doing so much good work in the background. connected us just like never before. People we met so long time ago. How we reconnected again at the One Africa conference in Detroit, Michigan, and also at the Black Excellence conference in New York, in Bronx, New York. So New York is in the house tonight. It's in the house tonight. It was an incredible experience that we shared out there. We met with so many people that we never otherwise would have met. That's the fact. Brother Taagiy brought the whole world of Africans together. Top brands, top notch professors, icons, icons of the world. He brought them all together. It was a kind of a celebration that, when we say high end, first class, everything, excellence in every format, that's what we did. I had the honor to meet top brands in the Pan-African movement, you know, people that have been speaking for long, that have been on the global platform, even before we even resurfaced, you know. We just came a short while now using the experiences of these people, you know. Today they are the biggest in the world in terms of Pan-Africanism, in terms of advocacy, in terms of cultural education, in terms of uniting Africans worldwide. Brothers with big heart, nerves, okay? So we're so excited, and I'm so happy that I could connect back to Brother Taagiy. When I went through all these images, I felt like, wow, what's the Hapi movement doing now? When are we going to be meeting again, to connect again, to meet such good people? Because most often we speak only about the challenges on the continent of Africa. We literally don't share wonderful, beautiful moments in our life. We don't share the big things that we have done so far. When something happens, it's like Africans are just stupid, Africans are silly, Africans cannot unite, Africans cannot control wealth, they cannot build empires, you know. But no, we did it. We've been doing it. We've been doing it. And apart from that, Brother Taagiy is not just organizing these events to bring us together. He's been doing a lot of trips, taking people, Africans, back to Egypt, to the origins, where the economics of the world started. So Brother Taagiy has been doing very marvelous work. We really cannot underestimate him. And we just want to find out today, what is he doing? What's happening in the Hapi movement, what is coming up, what is happening. As a matter of fact, I miss it. I miss that movement. I miss the connection. Um, and that's the reason I've been hanging behind his neck all this while. I say, brother, you have to come back on the show. We just want to have some time with you, spend a good time. This is the first time I ever met Professor James live. The other ones, I tried to load them. That's also where I had to meet Sister Cheryl for the first time. Met good people, face to face. And during this meeting, I had the opportunity to visit Professor Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And I would never have done that without the support of Brother Taagiy, at this marvelous conference. Everybody, we were just like in the house. I mean, I can never ever be like, literally, I just cannot wait for Brother Taagiy to tell us when we are going to connect again, like this. It was powerful. It was powerful. I met great people, that otherwise, without Hapi, we would never have connected today. So when we talk about power in unity, we talk about One Africa, we talk about the economics, we talk about building collaborations, networks, partnership. Brother Taagiy did it just like without even saying a word. And it really literally took me some time back that I begin to see, and I like, oh my God, he did such a marvelous things. What is happening now? Connect us with some big guys in the world that we never honestly would have met them. So people, welcome with me our great brother here, Brother Taagiy, who we just want to share some time together tonight, right? And just find out about the happy movement, find out about his moves, what is doing, what is happening now, which movie is coming up again. Like you can see, he never even changes. Handsome, as powerful, as strong. The undefeatable is right here with us in studio. Greetings to you, brother. It's been a while. It's been a damn while. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, brother. It's been a long while. I don't know. Didn't you miss us? I miss you like crazy.
Yeah, it's been some time since we've been on the show, and the way time goes, it goes so fast. And looking at the pictures, and by the way, thank you for that extraordinary intro. You're making me feel shy, but the reality is, yeah, it's been some time, and it's been a long time, too long, in fact. And we're starting, even in the world of Hapi, we kind of took a little hiatus, but we're starting up again. And we do have some things scheduled for the future that I can't really announce right now, but
Yes.
trust and believe as soon as it's like we're going to do it, this is going to be the first stop to
Mm,
announce it. So
okay.
there are some things that's going to overshadow the things that we did, was it 2 years ago now, February 23. Wow, I tell you, time flies. Yeah, I can't believe that was 2 years ago. But yeah, no, that was February 23, two
Yes.
years. So, but yes, and listen, I just gotta say what a fantastic job you did that day. And it, like I said, it all just came together. We sat down and with the drummers and we went downstairs and it was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna open up the show and oh my God, even the drum circle we had out front was all amazing. It was just something that couldn't be scripted, you know? And those things come together the way they're supposed to. And you can see that there's a power greater than ourselves that's behind these things when we do them, and it comes out, it comes out and it kind of has a certain flow and a rhythm that is kind of the control is taken out of your hands and it just kind of moves in that way. So I really can't take any credit for it because just bringing the pieces together and everything kind of cooks itself. That's all. You know what I mean? So that's the only credit I have, maybe just bringing that together. But everything else, how it was orchestrated and how it flowed, was all pre-designed. It was all done by power greater than us.
That's so true. When you look behind, what would you say these are the things that actually happened? Like you look at your work, mine before we even met in Bronx, New York. I mean, there was first of all the One Africa conference,
Mhm.
and in the midst of COVID, like sometimes you really like, do you sit sometimes and like, oh my God, how did I even do this? Like what was really just walking up, and ain't you afraid? Like sometimes it was huge.
You know, I think about those things sometime, but then I also realize that like God is real. We speak about it, but I
Mm,
don't know necessarily if we believe it. So I've had those moments wherein is a realization that had come to me. And I'm like, you know what? This work is purposeful. You have to keep going on this path. And because it's also very challenging.
yes.
And it's challenge, it'll test you and it'll question your resolve, and you'll be like, well, I'm not sure if I really should be doing this. But then other times it's like, you know what? There are acknowledgments and there are um it reveals itself. So I understand, and I always tell Felicia and people that's involved with the happy movement all the time, like, listen, this is bigger than us. And a lot of times, all we need to do is just sit back and let it do what it's supposed to do. And with that, it kind of has a way of just kind of making things whole and right. And yeah, so for me, going through the process, it's just a realization that we're on the right path. You know, we these ancestral forces, are real, and it's a time where you can see them kind of just taking control and doing certain things. So all we have to do is just do our parts. You play your role, and everything else will kind of happen the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely true. We miss your face. You actually you need to position yourself in the camera. It's been a long while that we didn't see you though.
Yes.
Yes, yes, that's okay.
Okay.
Wonderful. So, you said something before, like there's certain things in life, and that's why we can actually not take the credit. Like what happened in Bronx that night, nothing scripted, nothing
Right.
rehearsed. Like it just happened. We didn't plan anything. Everybody just had to take their show, even the drummers, the dancers, everything was just in place. So sometimes, like you say, we don't believe these things, but it's real. Like we are just realizing it. Like we don't even have to think. Like we get up in the morning and it's there. Do you have that feeling? Yeah.
All the time, especially um when we go into these huge undertakings. Like you mentioned the One Africa conference. That was on the backdrop of a major international event. The conference was originally set for to be in Egypt. Um, that had to be canceled because they did not want us um, having a conference of that magnitude there. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of back and forth, and we wound up rescheduling it for Detroit. And one of the things that came out of it was something greater and bigger than what we initially planned. The
Mm-hmm.
conference was originally entitled, excuse me, the One Africa Returning to the Source. It was primarily an academic conference that centered around the confluence or togetherness of African cultures through language, arts, ethnicity, and bringing it kind of all back to the now, saying all these different cultures and customs and languages somehow are connected to the Nile Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had these academic professors from around the world that were convening in Aswan, Egypt, to talk about that specifically. When that conference had the issue, we rescheduled it and postponed it and moved it to Detroit, and it became the One Africa Power and Unity Conference. And now the message was different. And I think the message that we had in Detroit was more powerful in the sense that we still had the academic piece there, but we also connected it with a more universal um, message to Africans on the continent and throughout the diaspora. There was things in there talking about the family, Black love, economics, politics, all the different aspects that affect us in a more global way was the conversation. And we realized also that through this, we came up with the coin or the phrase word power and unity. And we changed hey, I'm gonna show you, we changed the sign of the happy to the original sign, which represents
Mm-hmm.
unity. If you can see
Mm-hmm.
here, this is
Yes.
the happy tying the lotus and papyrus plants. And it was interesting because as we were looking for the new kind of title, I was looking at the seat, and this image of Hapi, you could see, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. You could see it on the base of the statues that the pharaohs sit. And it
Mm-hmm.
tells you that they seating on their power is preeminently based on unity. And they cannot rule if things are not together. Right. So it's a message for us. It's a universal message that in order for Africans to be strong throughout the world, we have to come together. So that power and unity message is one of these times where the power of the ancestors, the power of God was made real and revealed itself, because this wasn't something we thought of. And just looking at it, the message was there all the time. It was there in plain sight. We had the happy before, everything we do was happy, but we didn't really see the real message of happy until that happened. And I looked at the image of the two happies united, the southern and northern happy, the lotus and papyrus plants tied together in a knot. And I saw it seated at the bottom of the statues of the pharaohs. I realized, like, oh shit, this is something, I'm sorry, but this is something that we have here, and it's given us the message that this is where we need to go. This is the direction. And there was no power without unity.
Hmm. What do you think, in your opinion, was the reason why they were scared when they
Huh.
heard that you were coming? What was this fear about? I mean,
So it's interesting because there's some things going on now. And I've been traveling back and forth to Egypt for about 25, almost 30 years now.
mhm,
And I spent a lot of time, and it was something I didn't anticipate, because I didn't see that type of pushback when it came to Africans proclaiming that ancient Egypt is an African culture,
mhm,
or an African, just built by Africans. I didn't see this. One of the things that's happening now, there's a new, um, when Egypt and other, during the post-colonial era in Africa, a lot of countries began to get their independence, and a lot of the countries in North Africa aligned themselves with Arab nationalism. And Arab nationalism became the theme. And Egypt itself is called the Arab Republic of Egypt. So a lot of people identified themselves as being Arabs. Didn't identify themselves as being Africans or anything else, or Egyptians in that sense of being ethnic Egyptians like from the past. So it was an Arab kind of thing. So when this happened, you saw a shift, and the identity became more so we are connecting ourselves with ancient Egyptians, and you're trying to steal our history, which became really interesting for us, because it was like, okay, that's not what we're doing. We're not saying that um, there are some Egyptians that are ethnically connected to the past. That'd be foolish for us to say that, because there's been a lot of mixing of blood throughout history. No one has ever said that. However, we're also saying that Egypt is African,
mhm.
right? So it's this. There's so much evidence and truth about that. Let's not debate that point. There's a point in where we can kind of settle on this, right? But they are essentially trying to take what we call Kemet, right? Or what the ancient Egyptians called Kemet, not us, because they called Kemet the land of the blacks, out of Africa, and place Egypt in the Middle East. And that's kind of how this thing is happening. So there was a huge, it's not only fair, but this attack is not only against us, but it's against major institutions as well. There was a art exhibit, I believe it was in the Netherlands, maybe in Germany, where they had the images. They had some contemporary Black people adorned in pharaonic attire, like rappers and things like that. And they lost their minds over that. They didn't want that to happen. You had the Cleopatra movie
Mhm.
that Netflix put, Netflix produced. You had a couple other different things that were in line with the ideology and the philosophy that Egypt is Black. They didn't want any of this, and they started to push back against everything. But this is something new. They didn't take this approach before. This is a new approach on a scale that we just haven't seen before. And I'm still wondering why, to be exact. I mean, obviously, we know the history piece, but there's a reason why they are trying to switch the identity from, or their philosophy from, Arab nationalism to something else. So it's something I'm still kind of paying attention to. But one of the things, like I said, you see is that this push, and it was interesting too, because around that time, the Metropolitan Museum of Art created an exhibit called African Origins of Civilization. And it
Mhm.
was an exhibit that was based on the work of Sheikh Anta Diop, that had to show the confluence of African cultures. They had the different statues together, and different things, the Anka and the Kwaba, all these different things that we know you can show there's a connection here, right? So that exhibit was essentially saying the same thing that the conference was based on, but I guess to have it in Egypt would be almost an acknowledgement that this is reality and this is real. So to answer your question, they really didn't want that, because it's one thing for it to be thousands of miles away in New York City, but it's another thing to have that same conversation, that same information go on in Egypt. So it was definitely a really interesting time. And there's also other things too. There was a lot of misinformation out there. Um, to your question of the fear part, that we were coming to cause problems, and we were trying to kind of start a Black Lives Matter kind of movement there, which couldn't be nothing further from the truth. We don't have, and they didn't really want us to have any connections with the Nubians there in Aswan, and That was never the intent. It was never anything remotely close to that. We didn't have any, you know, plans or anything to even converse with any people from that community. But there was this whole rhetoric that went along with that, and they were like, we don't want them here starting trouble, and we was never planning on doing that. Everything we had there was contained with the people that we were bringing. It was not meant for outside people that live in Egypt, whether indigenous, foreigners or not. It was never for them. It was just for us.
Mm. That's quite interesting. But did you think that gave you another perception and perspective to like, oh, but wait a minute, what's happening here? Like you just said most of these things like is the ancestral or they got like in it, like you were even thinking, no, I just wanted to do something small. But then like your ancestors said, no, wait a minute, hang on there. This is how we eat. Let me just show you exactly what is behind, the scenes. So that like, did you really like, okay, wait, all right. Like, wait, let me then. Did it give you that kind of a feeling, like not a feeling like, oh, there's more to what I'm thinking?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. When we first, like I said, when we first thought about doing it, and it was very, I didn't see what was going to happen. And it was something like, okay, let me say it this way. We are still to this day um, dealing with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And this is now going on, well, what year was that? That was 22. Going on 3 years later, we're still in the process of everything that came after it was to me the more important things. And it was also, there were things that even within our own community, we need to realize. And that was the most important lesson out of that was, where are we falling short, right? Because we talk about these things, we've been talking about them for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we falling short as a people? What
Mm,
are some of the things that we need to do to move forward? And it was a critical analysis
mm,
of where we are. And it made me take a step back and see things very differently. I was like, okay, this is what it is. Going into that, I could say I had some rose colored lenses on. I was looking at things a very different way, not only with dealing with the Egyptians, but just dealing with our community as a whole. Things were I looked at it very differently. But that situation kind of brought me to the reality of where we are. That's okay. This is where we are now. And if you are going to have these type of undertakings, you and everything around you needs to be prepared in a more profound way. And it also taught me, like, you know what, we need to focus also on our base and our power,
mhm,
right? Because it also signified that we didn't have any power, we didn't have a voice,
mhm,
right? And it's very important for when you're moving forward to have a voice. So what are some of the things, the steps we need to do to create a base wherein that we can have a voice, where we can have advocacy, and we can move forward in these different arenas? And I was like, you know what? We need to go back, get everything together, and then move forward again. So there was so many things that came out of it, but it was a great um lesson to learn, and I'm very appreciative of it because it really kind of exposed a lot of things.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Um,
And I'm sorry, and
it's
and it also came a lot of so many positives came out of that as well. And like going back to just the different conferences and the people who there were certain people who were originally supposed to speak in Egypt that didn't want to do it in Detroit for whatever reason. But the people that came on board, like yourself, with Detroit, just again, it just broadened our horizons. And it's like, you know what, this is what we need. This is the message. We can talk about history, and one of the things, and I'm gonna end it with this. Um, Dr. Jeffries in the pyramid analysis speaks about economics, politics, and culture.
mhm,
This is the thing we need to do to establish anything that we're doing. We need to have the cultural imperative, which gives us our deep values, the economics, which is your productive capabilities, and your in the politics, which is your management capabilities, which manages your economics. Now we have these three things, or you look at these three things. One of the things I see we do very well in this community is we grab at culture, right?
Yes. Hmm.
We grab it. Language, we
Hmm.
different. We learn Swahili. We'll study Melanesia. Well, we're learning different languages. We'll put on dashikis. We grab the culture piece because it's I like to call it the low hanging fruit. It's like right there. It's easy for us to obtain, but the economics and the politics, we seem to kind of run from that, or we don't really kind of figure out ways how to go after those things more aggressively, right?
Yes.
And
Mm.
thus we fail because we only have one, right? We only grab for the culture. We don't grab for the economics or the politics. Until we are able to master all three, we're going to keep ourselves in this cycle, this vicious backward cycle. We're trying to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again because we're not getting our economics and our politics together. We
Mm.
talk African culture, but that's fine. But we don't have the other two components of that triangle. So that incident was a how can I say was the flashlight, the spotlight was put on it because it was like you need to focus in on more of these other two aspects, because if you had these two aspects, you would have a base, you would have advocacy, you would have the things that you need to fight this fight.
Mm.
So it was originally all about culture. The conference in Egypt was a cultural conference. We got to the States and then in Detroit, the economics and the politics message was very clear. And these are things we need to focus on.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Um, Economics, culture, and politics. Culture, I think, is just because we could not even do otherwise. Even when we put on the dankishis and we speak the Swahili and we look the way we are in kinky and stuff. Um, I still have the impression, I don't know whether it's the same thing. The idea of even being conscious that you are culturally is still not even there. I think it's still like it's just a normal thing. Like we sleep, we get up, we sleep. I think that's it in terms of culture. But like in between, what happens? And the point of economics and politics, I think both are coming on the table at the same time now. We cannot even run away from it. There's just
No,
no way. Culture is just like now that's a tool. But then economics and politics, you see it all over in the Congo. This is what is happening. We find even conversations that are going around building this kind of partnerships that we never understood. We always were blaming the leaders on the continent. Why do you go out on this summit and that? Because the whole world had understood the power of working together, partnering together, getting an agreement, connect together for whatever reason it is. It has always taken that power of unity. But when you are the first person with Happy Movement and even the Akhettours and everything that you're doing that is about economics, what do you think we should be doing now and actually paying attention on that? Because me, I come from the culture. And honestly, like I never saw, for me, culture was, oh, we are fine, we do our stuff. But now when you see that culture needs money to make it a reality, that's when you begin to understand that culture is actually powerless when the economic is not backed up by the economics and the politics. What
right,
should we be doing? What should we be paying attention to? And concretely, when we say what should we be doing, like transforming our organizations to understand that even if we are doing a movement or in the non-profit and non-profit sector is the biggest part of business, do we actually get it?
right. So it's interesting because I'm working on something called the secrets of the pyramids, and we oftentimes question how the pyramids were built, right?
Mhm.
From a mass production, just masonry, just engineering standpoint, right?
Mm.
But we don't look at the fundamental foundation of the pyramids, which is the fundamental foundation of every institution, every organization, every country, every empire is economics, right? Economics is the foundation.
Mm.
So When we think about economics, politics, and culture, they're separate, but they're also interconnected in a way that you really can't have one without the other.
Mm,
So our cultural identity gives us our deep values, which governs then your economics and it governs your politics. But in there, in your deep values, you must have an economic mindset,
mm,
right? And this is
mm,
something Africans struggle with because we don't see money first. That's not what we see first, right? But
mm,
we have to change our socialization with economics. It
mm,
has to change, right? And one of the things that our ancestors in the Nile Valley did very, very well was they saw economics as the foundation. And I give you, for instance, when the pyramids were built, the first thing they built to, first thing they built before they started building the pyramids was they built a village to house the economics of the workmen so that the project didn't fail, right?
mhm,
So before any block was moved in any position, the first thing was the economic foundation was laid in place. First thing, right?
mm,
Economic foundation consisted of things like fisheries and butchers and doctors and all these different things that they needed in place before they started to work. We do things backwards. We'll have and again, the pyramids are a shining example of culture, right? But
mm,
before that happened, economics was laid as its foundation, right?
mhm,
So what we need to do is we need to lay economic foundations first. If you're saying to yourself, hey, I want to do this cultural center or do this great thing, okay, that's fine. It's all well and good. But how are you going to fund this? Are you going to have workers? How the workers going to get paid? How's the resources going to continue, for some time so that everything can keep flowing? If
mm,
you don't think that way first, and you just think about, the culture piece first, it's going to fail. And you also, with that, need your politics because that politics helps manage your culture, helps manage the economics, excuse me. So if like those things have to be laid out as your foundation. And if you lay that out as your foundation, we'll have success in what we're doing. And there are a lot of things. I mean, Africa, we know, is a extremely rich resource um, place. In terms of the vast available amounts of wealth there. But we have to see that wealth as empowering and take that wealth as empowering and lay it down as a foundation to build. And some countries have been very successful with it, and you see it happening. And some's not so successful, but we need to really look at our economics first before we do anything.
mhm. Brother Taagiy,
I'm
thank you
sorry,
very much.
I just wanted
Yes.
to add one quick thing. And this again something I've been just thinking about for a while. Again, the socialization of it, it just has to be different. I think sometimes we see it as being evil, money and wealth. It doesn't really align with our core values sometimes. And I just think that really has to change.
That has to change because the first thing, like we said, the fact that the world doesn't even perceive that Africans or Egyptians, let's just say like the Kemet. I mean, just even the fact that Africa, the map, Africa is an African Egypt, even the present modern day Egypt
Hmm.
is in Africa, it's an African country. Um, it's already just peeled the whole thing around. But coming back to world, like you say, if you look at the cultures, even I'm saying it like a girl from the village, the first things that the fathers or the parents would hand over to the children was land, was land. And I think for us in the diaspora, it makes everything so complicated that we keep always thinking we can never build wealth because literally we're out of our land, a space of land. So much so that land is considered here something of a capital of, but in ancient Africa or on the continent, land is just land. I cannot imagine my father owned hills, like it's a whole ranch of hills and hills because I mean, like pastorals and farmers, they had to have hills for their cattle and really many. But now when we came because of this idea of schooling system and looking for a job and then being so slim in such a way that your wealth is justified by how much a paycheck you are, which is not wealth as a matter of fact. So that ideology of I need to get a PhD or I need to be a doctor or I need to be this and to earn a salary will never transform you into wealth. So I think this basics for us in the diaspora, like even the migrant community like us that join later, you see, it's even difficult for an African to own a house, an apartment. So they're gonna make you pay like for 60 years and you end up just being broke. But whereas on the continent, you just have the land, and land is wild, where you can eat, where you can build a whole village, where the community thrives from agriculture and that. And so in that ancient, and if you look at even the things that Mansa Musa did to become that really wealthiest was land and resources. So uh, just think that Mansa Musa was a diaspora, was like us. There would never be a way that that amount of wealth and that mindset would be allocated on it. Is that true? Or does it make sense?
No,
How?
no, it absolutely does make sense. And here's where it's interesting, but we speak of colonialism and the floodgates on Africa opening. And we think of Mansa Musa, the great Malian Empire, king of the Mali Empire. We also have to think about the Hajj, the legendary Hajj he had to Mecca, and the amount of gold
Mhm.
that people around the world saw in West Africa and what that did, you know. So we also have to think about now having a culture that's going to protect that wealth, because being a Muslim, it just kind of just exposed Africa in a way that it made it penetrable, not just to other Arabs, but to Europeans alike.
Mhm.
So here's where we also have to keep in mind that we need an identity that's going to be unshakable, and that is going to be like, we need the we call it black nationalism. And
Mhm.
if you look at these groups around the world, whether it's Chinese, Jewish, American, nationalism is something that they've used to help control their wealth, right? It's a nationalism identity. Chinese in just 50 years rose to one of the greatest powers in the world through Chinese nationalism.
Mhm.
So we need to, and I think sometimes black nationalism is something that, again, culturally may be um, an issue with us in some pockets.
Mm.
It may be taboo in some pockets, but if we have the black nationalism identity, we won't be just readily giving our wealth away
Mhm.
because we believe in a different God that doesn't look like us. And this is something else that kind of goes hand in hand. Like I said, these three things have to work. They're not interdependent of one another. They're very dependent on one another to be successful, right? And you
Yeah.
need the culture and the economics, like they have to work together seamlessly for success. And other groups do it extremely well. They do it well because they understand that. We need to understand that. We need to have that mindset. And a lot of things that Trump is saying today, make America great, and all these different taglines that they have, it's about they have an identity, and
Mm.
they understand their identity is connected to their wealth. And to
Mm.
maintain their wealth, they have to maintain their identity.
Mhm.
And to
Mhm.
maintain their standing, they have to do that. Chinese understand that very well. Jewish people understand it very well. Arabs attempted to understand that. We are the only group that have a problem understanding that. And this is where we're kind of behind that curve. And these are things that are some of our greatest thinkers and philosophers have talked about. And this is something that even something we have to get back to. I'm saying something we have to get back to because the ancient Egyptians, they had that identity. They understood who they were, and they saw themselves as very different from everyone around the world. And nationalism was something that Egyptian nationalism was something they talked about. I'm talking about the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors. They understood that, and that wealth was connected to that, and they understood that quite well. And it's just something we it's an acumen that I see that we've lost, but it's something that we can obtain again.
Mhm. Thank you very much. But do you believe also, because when we go back, there's just a lot of aspects that is just always has been on the way. Like they say, when somebody keeps reminding you that you're poor, you're poor, you're poor, you're poor, like they keep telling you, you end up believing exactly that you are poor. I mean, the narratives, the cultural education from the colonial systems. I call it the colonial project that we had, plays a very big key role. Even as we are struggling in the diaspora, you see that the continent is still super, super into it. Like, what is it? Like, I think, like, what is it that we need to do really radical to radicalize that? Because even sometimes we're also happy on it. They're like, oh, like, literally we're so poor until we embrace the poverty, like we love it. Like, even when somebody like you're saying, no, we have to break that chains and
Mhm.
become economically powerful, we do everything to justify it, like, no, after all, it's material things, where after I'm going to die and I will leave everything here. Where is that mindset coming from, that we love poverty? Like, like, literally, even when we have money, we still want to beg. Like, I want to stay poor. Is it a mental state, or how can we solve this, brother? All right. Before he comes back, I want to greet all of you. I see all of you in the chat. Sister Felicia, thank you so very much, my sister. Thank you, Sister Cheryl. Thank you, Sodo. Thank you, Noko. Thank you, all of you. I see you in the chat, but it's like the conversation is so beautiful. Enes Parker, Papa Chisi, I see all of you. We see you. We see your donations. We see the contribution. We see our brother Chi from Bafut watching us. We see all of you. Okay, we'll be paying attention to you. Just keep on. Yes, Brother Taagiy, what is it? I mean, you are the god of economics. Remember, like you said, all the ancestors come back in their own form. No, we cannot refuse it. I'm also an ancestor, maybe Harriet Tubman or Ya Asantewa in this other
Mhm.
format. But we have to accept this responsibility, that because you're the one, economics, 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 and going back to the root in ancient Egypt, that is you, the pharaohs. Give us the knowledge of the ancient times, like, this is what we have to do. Susan, you can dance and beat the drum, but at the end of the day, this is what we want to have it done.
Well, that's a huge undertaking, the god of economics. So, um, one of the things that it's critically important is the youth, and we need to engage the youth in a very different way when it comes to how they see themselves and how they see economics. Because
Mhm,
again, it's one and the same and synonymous. And economics must be seen as the foundation. There's some of the things that I shared the other night, and when we think of uh, just teaching the youth is, and this is all may sound like something we've talked about a long time, but it's so critically important that we can't get away from is,
mhm.
again, is showing them they have to see themselves in greatness,
Yes.
right? They have
Mhm,
to see themselves as being successful. And the way they do that is by understanding and learning their history. And this is why there's such an attack on African history, because they don't want African people to see themselves as great. And in turn, when we don't see ourselves as great, it opens a doorway for other influences to come in and give you their culture. And in turn, giving you their culture or their religion, you will see them as being great, flat out. If you have you're black, have a white Jesus, and you follow white people colonizing, you're going to think that they're God because everything associated with them is beautiful and everything associated with their God looks like them. These are things we have to get away from. And it sounds very simple, right? But one of the things that our ancestors is getting to ancient Egypt were very good about doing was having generation after generation come in greatness. Those statues that we see in Egypt, they were built for us to see, but they were also built for them.
mhm.
You know, when you think of ancient Egypt, you have to think of it in the span of 3,000 years. There were people, if you take like just say, a Ramses or a King Tut, people were like in the New Kingdom, they were 1,000 years removed from pyramid building. So they saw the pyramids as being this great thing that inspired them, right? The question is, where is our inspiration coming from today? We need inspiration. We need things to inspire us in the way
Mm,
that's going to have us fighting in a way that they fought
mm.
and for greatness. And this is the key. So this is why it's important to travel. This is why it's important to visit Kemet. You know, I tell people we're going to Egypt to visit Kemet. So when in Kemet, we see that and we get inspired. I know for me personally, my inspiration came from visiting Kemet. You know, in fact, I was pulling this off the bookshelf. This book here, Destruction of Black Civilization, I had read when I was about 14, and it gave me something I didn't have prior to that, and it changed my life. And that was Black Heroes. It inspired me in a way to want to make a difference. And this book was just in the house. It was actually my stepfather's book, and it was just there laying around. And finally, I started reading it. But after I read that book, it opened my eyes, and I saw myself very different. I looked in the mirror. I saw something. I saw someone different than what I've been taught up until that time. So I know for me personally, I see myself as an example of that. And I know others have that same story of just seeing themselves differently once they realize who they are. And it comes from knowledge itself and education
Mm.
of our greatness in our past. So traveling does it, reading does it, all these different things do it, but we have to make sure that the children see it. They
Yes.
have to see those statues. They have to see. We used to have in my house pictures of Marcus Garvey and Malcolm X and people, things like that. So the images were there. You know, there was a cultural centers in the neighborhood. They were there. The institutions were there. So this didn't happen by accident. This happened on purpose because the ingredients were there. The environment was there. So we have to think about creating those environments. And it sounds a lot easier, you know, it's easier said than done. But in the homes, this is something that we can control. The outside, it's a little bit different. But if we can just have the educational tools in the house, whether it be books, images, pictures, all the things that's going to inspire them in a way to want to do better. In that inspiration of who they are, we also have to teach them the inspiration of economics, saying, hey, you're great, but how did you become great?
Mhm.
How did we do this in our greatness? What are some of the things that we had? What are some of the tools and the mechanisms we had around us to give us our greatness? What does your environment look like? Now we have to study our environments because our environments are very different from what they were in now, and everyone has different environments. Economics are very different in each place.
Mhm.
However, with that, the mindset is universal. And that mindset, yeah, universal mindset of just having a wealth universal mindset, like kind of like how you said the counteract the poor mindset that they teach us, because that's really what it is. But the poor mindset begins in the fact that you look in the mirror and you see hopelessness. That's the
Yes.
poor mindset, right? The poor mindset begins with the fact that you have, you know, here in America, you have very young children that have no hope. They're 10 years old and feel like their only pathway is to jail or to a grave. They've given up at 10. Like, how does a 10-year-old give up? A 10-year-old gives up because they don't see themselves as doing anything. Everyone around them has failed. The education system has failed. They have no sense of who they are. So they give up and they just want to go to things that they feel like is going to just get them by day to day. This has to stop. They have to see themselves as being who they are and go back to, just like I said, those images. They may not be able to get a chance to go to Egypt, but you can have the pictures of pharaohs and different, you know, black accomplishments on the wall so that they can see in your house or have books. And these are things that's important.
I mean, HK is saying your recent show on Black Press was actually awesome. Do you want to share a little bit with us? We were not there. We didn't see it. Like,
So yeah, that's thank you for bringing that up. So we had a show because we really want to highlight the importance of black press. And in Hapi, one of the big new things that we're undergoing now is the expansion of the Hapi newsletter. And the expansion of the Hapi newsletter, because we realized one thing, that it's so super important information, especially in a time like today where information is being censored, right?
mm,
There are fact checkers, there's things going on social media. There's a whole censoring of just knowledge and information. We spoke earlier about the One Africa Conference, the censoring of knowledge and information. We have to have a medium tool that is unshakable and that can share information in an uncensored way. right? So initially, the Happy newsletter was something that was just relative to things Happy. It was things spoke about if we had any events, um, just Happy news. It was simply very, very small in terms of what we were thinking about doing. Now we've expanded it to a much more global view. And we are imploring people out there who have things that they want to share intellectually to share these things with us so we can publish it in the news, in the newsletter, which is now going to be an online newspaper. If any businesses want to come and advertise, we strongly welcome those businesses to come advertise. And this is something that's really big because now we have something that we didn't necessarily have before. And I want to just use this word that we talked about the other night, and it's called ownership. And this goes back into a wealth mindset, right? The wealth mindset begins with ownership.
Mm,
And you talked earlier about your father and land. So we
mm,
want the community to understand that it's time to have ownership of this the Happy
mm,
newspaper. It's
mm,
yours. It's
mm,
not just Happy's anymore. It's yours, and be a part of this. And let's
mm,
get information out to our people.
mm.
People definitely want them to go sign up for it. We have a pretty good subscription base now, but go to www.happyfilm.com and sign up for the newsletter and be a part of it. If you have anyone who's interested in just sending articles and uh, things they want to share or they want to advertise their business, again, you can reach us at happyfilm@gmail.com. Um, in that interview, also, when we spoke about this power of the Black press, one of the things we had our two guests, Professor James Small and Jabari Azaze, and they brought tremendous commentary, extraordinary commentary about the history of Black press and how significant it was in the 1800s. It was things that during the time of chattel enslavement that was going on, and I was amazed and learned so much about it, and was an awesome. Um, it was a very, very good interview, and I told the guests, the panel, both of the brothers that were there, that I learned so much from it. People like Ida B. Wells, who was very significant in her own press, and they had a press in New York in 1827. It was amazing. But the power of the Black press is something uncompromising. Black press speaking truth to power. That was the title of it, and understanding what it takes. And there's a lot going on in Africa right now in the Sahel. You have things going on between the DRC and Rwanda. There's things that are happening that we need firsthand information about, but the media is not necessarily giving us right and accurate information. So people out there who may have good information about these things, about what's going on with Captain Ibrahim and just with the countries denouncing France and all those different things that's going on in Western Africa and again Rwanda and DRC and all these different things that are going on in the continent. This information that we need shared. This information that we would love to have to publish in the Happy newsletter.
Wonderful. You talked about something about ownership. This is very important. It's very important because I think it is not the inability that we are not doing something, but the inability for us to collaborate, to look at Happy as this is my platform, to look at the Africa we want as this is our platform, like the ownership. Why do you think, like, for instance, you're doing unhappy and everybody is really just going to look like, no, it's his thing. Africans really, we don't adopt our own thing. No, it's his thing. And even when you're building something to say it's for us, no, it's always like push, like, no, it's for you. For me, I begin to think this is one, the first thing is we don't want to take responsibility. That's the first thing. And in that case, they keep thinking, oh, it's your thing. And I begin to ask, like, when was it that before, for instance, Happy had to do something or to create this platform? When, how was it possible that you had to go and call everybody, ask their opinion, and then we sit and begin to think that this is our own? All these projects that we're building are legacy projects because we see, like you said, the intergenerational wealth pass from generation to generation. I'm sorry. If we are not able to hand over these things to the young people and they understand the vision behind it, I think that's why most of our projects just die when we die. Because honestly, Happy, Sister Felicia, Brother Happy, it's ownership. But you see, even the fact that we keep always saying, no, I'm the CEO of this, what's actually CEO of this? At some point, this kind of words also divide us. Everything that really like divide. Oh, so he's the CEO. Now I have to create my own. Even though we're doing the same thing, we create the same thing over and over. Individualism. How can we actually bypass this to create this partnership, this network? What I saw you did in One Africa conference, what we saw you did in Black Excellence, bring everybody together. You would have been afraid to say, like, oh my God, they're coming out to steal my event. Now they will be seen and not me. I've been doing it for how many years in Germany, building these massive platforms, bringing people from all over organizations, running behind people, begging, I'm sorry, Africans. Nobody wants to own it. At the end of the day, they still come and look at you. It's your thing. No matter how you do it, if you give them space or you give them platforms, come on, let's build this together, they will just do it one. And we cannot let them die because the vision is there. And the moment you stick on it, the belief is because you're profiting, you're benefiting something from it. That's why you're doing it. Okay, if it was difficult, why don't you leave it? It's complex, brother. How can we do it the way you did it? One Africa conference was one Africa, bringing partners from all over. It took me a while to understand that it was you and Sister Felicia that was behind. You saw the oneness, Black excellence. We went, it was all there. How can we get back that spirit? That's why I say, brother, hey, you need to organize something really quick before you even think of something. Because when you say
No,
it's 3 years
it's coming.
now.
But it's interesting. But when we Hapi, the spirit of Hapi is unity, and I believe that we are in the spirit and energy of Hapi, right? So there's no escaping that. When the film and everything begins with the Hapi film, right? For those who are not aware what Hapi is the original name. Well, it's the name for the film that we have, and it's streaming on people who have Quelly TV, Amazon, Tubi. They can go see it. HAPI is a 2-hour and 12-minute documentary. You can see it worldwide. And when I first really thought about the name for the film, because it was a part of a series of 3 films so far, sat down, I really started to think about what was important to me, what the message was. And initially, it was talking about just the relationship between Kemet and Kush, those 2 African civilizations along the Hapi River, right? Or along the Nile River. And that relationship piece is where I wanted to focus in on, because this is how they confuse us. Because they'll show the constant struggles, or they'll show some struggles, not constant, between Kemet and Kush. They'll try to outline that as being the narrative and saying, hey, the non-black, because they don't really say who they are, people in the north of Egypt hated the black people in Nubia, and they subjugated them for years and years and years. And this is how the narrative is. But when you get deep into the relationship, you see that it was 2 black groups that had an economic, mostly, relationship, right? Their relationship was more than likely, or by and large, was based on the fact that they needed the trading between one another for subsistence. There were certain things they had, certain other groups, certain things that they had, and they would trade back and forth. So their relationship was by and large produced on economics. But before I even got to the economic piece, it was essentially just about their relationship as a whole. Peace, war, everything during those periods, marriages, all those different things that 2 neighboring countries would have. As we expanded into it later, it became more of an economic thing. However, it was subtitled Hapi, or was titled Hapi, because one thing they had in common also was the river, the Hapi River. So that's where the name comes from. But as we expanded and moved on to it, we realized that there was something greater there besides just relationship, that the economics was really at the core of who they were and the core of their relationship. And that's when it became this thing. And as we looked at just different models of who we are as a people, one thing we realized that relationships, economics begins with the relationship between people,
Mhm.
right? So we got to have these strong relationships if we want to build economics. And all the things that, we do in Hapi is based on relationships. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I've said oftentimes when thinking about the film and the project, that the film, I'm not a rich person, but I have a lot of wealth, right? And the film itself showed me, well, I'm not rich yet, I would say that, but the film itself showed me that how wealthy I was because I had these tremendous relationships with people. And the film was built on relationships,
Mhm.
and I give you an example of that. We filmed in Egypt twice, and it was very difficult for me to do it because I was originally trying to do it many, many years ago when I first started the project. And I had some difficulties going there because there are some gatekeepers. And the gatekeeper, come to find out, was a colleague of my long-standing friend in Egypt that I've known him for 30 years. So now we had these close relationships that I didn't even know were there. But you see that there's a power greater than ourselves that's behind it, right? And when Africa, the Power and Unity Conference also showed me just how great and powerful the networks and the relationships are. So we need to value each other, which brings
Mhm.
us to a whole nother thing is when we have to see human commodity as something invaluable. When you have relationships with people, we have to kind of work hard to maintain those relationships. And things are going to happen. And people are going to fall out. I get that. But when you look at the people sitting next to you, there's always doors and doors that can be opened by the relationships that you have. So the One Africa, the Black Excellence, anything that we do in Hapi is based on relationships. The
Mhm.
success, the failures, it's all going to be based on relationship because that is the power, that is the energy of Hapi. And I showed you earlier with the Hapi the North, Hapi the South, tying it. It was always there. It was always there. The relationship piece. It was telling us like, listen, nothing's going to happen if there's no unity. Nothing's going to happen if you're not together. So I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the message. This is the calling. This is what we have to do going forward. This is who we are. We are,
Mhm.
Happy's going to bring you together. It is not myself, it's not Felicia, it's not anyone in Happy. There's an energy, there's a spirit of Happy that is going to bring you together.
Absolute. Absolute. I mean, like the happy is just simply like in the Bantu, it's the Ubuntu. It has always been, and I think I don't know whether you have the impression like that's the one reason detaching these connections and doing business in this kind of way we have been taught business. I think that's one of our major concerns. I think we have to, yes, we do understand the power of economics. We understand what business is, but we cannot do business like the white people do business. And I think because we have learned that kind of attitude of doing business, separatively, coldness, it's difficult. We can't. We cannot just do it. We've tried in every other way. We are forgiving, we are loving, we understand. You owe me money, you don't have it. No, it's okay. I have children to feed, they have to go to school. And we would give all every other excuse. Or you have any small one. No, 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 we don't save. Or to create a business, we have to give it because our families are hungry and stuff like that. Do you think this, I mean, we had our own social science and social way of doing things, like it cannot function the way the world, the kind of way of doing business is a hard business is in this kind of a format that we live in is without feelings. The business handshake itself teach you everything. If you've done a business administration, even just the handshake, they will be able to tell you, no, this is not hard enough, so you are just a weak CEO or a leader. The body language, the positions, they can tell you, oh, this is a serious guy or not, or this is somebody who doesn't give a damn, he wants his money, it's all about the money. Now, we as Africans, with this interconnection, like you said, happy is all about relationships. And we understand just even interpersonal communication in our relationships. Actually, that's my major, as a matter of fact. Interpersonal relationship amongst us is so complicated and complex a subject that I don't know how we gonna do it. One
You,
Africa.
you know, I think one of the things is when we look at African culture, we know it's not monolithic. They are very different cultural. There's some similarities, but there are some differences as well. Everything is not one and the same. When we look at what I've coined the world's first great mega economy, which is ancient Egypt, they had a lot of ups and downs when it came to economics and how they administered it and what was their mindset. Because what we're talking right now is mindset, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a certain mindset, and sometimes that mindset must be aggressive, but it's fair but aggressive,
Mhm.
right? And some of the wars, like I said, essentially was control what they call the Middle Nile region, which was the economic corridor to wealth. So they
Mhm.
had battles with Kush and things like that. It was more so over the control of the economic resources. And that's over trade routes and things of that nature. So we need to understand that we can be fair, we can practice, who we are, but there has to be a certain level of doing business the right way, right? I would say that I don't think there's a fine line between doing business and being African. I think there's a very broad line, but there's also a mindset that we must have, and the mindset must be like what has to be done today has to be done today. We can't push it till tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? And I
Yes.
think sometimes we can't have passive attitudes towards things like this, right? The days of being passive with our wealth and our economics has to end. We can't be passive and say, okay, we'll let people come and just take the riches from the land. There has to be a line drawn and say, no, we're going to be more aggressive with this. We're going to be more intentional. And I think that's the word we're looking for here. More
Intentional.
intentional, more
Yes.
intentional with our wealth,
Mhm.
with our mindset towards our wealth,
Mm.
right? So it doesn't necessarily conflict with our culture, right? Our deep values and our culture is not going to change us into someone else, but we're going to have a different relationship with our money, right?
Mm.
And more so with our relationship with our money is relationship with how we think and with our time. A lot of times you see there's poor business practices that I think as Black people we have because it's kind of deep rooted to certain aspects of our culture. But if we kind of remove that and say business is business and be more intentional about it, we'll be successful. And it's
Absolutely.
there's countless models for that. We don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, and it's not that difficult, but we just have to be more intentional about it.
Mhm. Or particularly the case that if we look at like the other communities that you mentioned, of course they protect their own, they have their own integrity, internal
Right.
integrity to say, oh, okay, if it is Brother Taagiy, I know it's my brother, I take advantage because it's my brother, but if it is not him, then I know this is the red line.
Right.
Like how do
Right.
we approach it from the concept of doing business with non-Africans and then also within us? Because if you go like to the Turkish or to the Turks, to their shops, honestly, even when they speak their dialect in front of them, they definitely would they would beat the price and say, oh no, because it's
Right.
us, theirs.
Right.
But
Right.
but me, like, I mean, if we had African malls and something like this, of course I come in. Just the fact of ownership coming on platforms that are our own, it's already enough of power and that role modeling that you're saying. Being at the
Right.
Black African Conference or at the Black Excellence Conference, like you literally just feel at home. Like you have some urge around you. It's our thing. It's my thing. It's my place. Like it's a different feeling. Like if you're invited at the table of strangers, you just be careful and like, okay, I better not make some noise here. But at the Black Excellence Conference, we were just screaming and jumping around and going around, running around like I am at home. This is my space. So exactly, it's falling in line like what you say, ownership of the
Right.
things that we is supposed to do. Now I would love us to I would love you to give us the formula. Like when I say formula, like just starting even by us um collaborating, um doing the same things. I support you, you support me, not just like intentionally to understand this is where we are now, this is where we need to go, this is how we need to mingle. Do you think that's too hard for us Africans to do?
No, no, it's something you said that kind of sparked something. So when I see you online or when I see you post something, like for me, it's so important to make sure that I like it and share it because
Yes.
it's we have to support each other, right? And it starts there with something very small.
Yes.
And we don't realize again the the value of human capital is so important for us to
Mhm.
just acknowledge each other, because we're going to build each other up, right?
Mhm.
You have you know, you're a nation within yourself, and Happy wants to collaborate with Pan African Daily TV, and this is very important for us that we stay connected. So
Yeah.
whenever I see you doing something, I have to intentionally support that. And other Black people that are doing things positive is it's the same thing. And I actively look and I'm like, okay, you gotta like it, you gotta share it, because these are things that it just comes, it comes back. And
Mm.
it's we're in this ecosystem again, the word economy, right? And that's the
Mhm.
key here. We have to realize that the root word for economy is eco, right?
Mhm.
And we have to see that as economy is in fact an ecosystem, right? So
Mm.
in this ecosystem, what's there, what's present, who's in this ecosphere of blackness that we have, and in these people that we have to constantly share and keep this, you know, this money going. And when we say money, we don't necessarily mean physical money, but money is more of a spiritual thing, that we just keep going. And just to go back on something you said before about other groups doing business with themselves very differently than they do business with us, it's very clear that Europeans, as aggressive as they are, when it comes to themselves, they'll sit down and they'll negotiate, right? We had the
Mm.
Belgium conference. They were about to go to war with each other. It's like, oh, listen, let's sit down, let's divide it up, because there's a lot of wealth there that we all can eat from. The
Mm.
Pope did the same thing in the 1400s, dividing Africa between Spain and Portugal. Like they're very clear on the fact that, listen, we can come down, sit at the table, and negotiate, but we'll take. They have a different mindset when it comes to doing business with each other versus a business with us. So
Mm.
there is a difference there with when it comes to how they approach things.
But to be honest with you, Brother Taggy, I would still say, regardless, we have come so close and so far. You said something. Other cultures, I really just don't think. If you look at these pictures, like I said, it was our first meeting. Now, tell me if anybody would say it was the first time that we met. To be honest with you, because
No,
like I said,
definitely not.
like I say, some of the times we do so much great things, but most often we maybe still think it's already small. This business that you put out here, Happy put out here, I'm telling you, is something that people would take a whole 3, 4, 5 years to do. And everybody that was in that space, I'm saying, because these are people I met for the first time. Look at our faces. Look at the way we connect. Look at the way, I mean, I could not load all the pictures because it was slow. I met Cheryl. I met the hugs, the way we squeeze at each other, like we had known ourselves for years. That was the first time we were meeting. I mean, like, if we could handle our business, look at, oh my God, Felicia, you don't just know what is happening right now in this picture, right? So, like, if we could, I think this is what you're trying to say, if we could upgrade our economical values, or what you say, ecosystem. Oh my God, thank you for that word, because I always was thinking ecosystem has to do something with some kind of, I mean, I'm like, no, actually, on a very clear note, like, if we could upgrade or step up our economic systems like we do when we meet each other, like the cultural values, I think we'll be getting there. Am I correct?
Yeah, and like again, and going back to something I was taken out of the film, economics first began with the relationship between people.
Mhm.
And if we value, and this is the most important thing, and like I said, what Happy, one of the first lessons, Happy's taught me many things, but one of the first lessons of Happy was just to understand the position we are in the world related to other people, and how we can do great things if we are surrounded by great minds, or we just have this we value human relationships more than we do.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things that as Africans we have power in, because we have great relationships with one another. but we now had to see our relationships with people very differently because each person they represent a nation. They represent something more than just themselves,
Yes.
right? Because
Mm.
each person has other relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if a person has a good relationship standing with you, if you go to them with something, say, hey, I need someone to do XYZ for me, this person now has someone who can actually open that door for you.
Mm.
Right. But if
Mm.
we have poor relationships with one another, and this is one of the things that they've tried very hard to do, divide and conquer. They want Africans to see themselves as individuals. They want us to fight each other, kill each other, things of that nature. We have gangs and all these different things that splinter us up, that we see self as individuals. Families are broken up. Everything to combat the Hapi spirit is put in place by Europeans to keep us under control.
Mm.
Right? So
Mm.
Hapi teaches unity. Everything for them is division.
Mm-hmm.
Mother and father here, children there,
Mm.
this here. All these different things are about keeping us separate. The Africans and African Americans have issues with each other.
Mm.
Caribbean Africans, African Americans have issues with other. There's all this to keep us separated, but we must understand the power of who we are being together. And just to go back to those conferences, listen, those are spaces in which are very needed. We used to have them more often times, than we do now. And this is something that I see that has been a real issue for the Black community, is having less and less spaces in which we gather. We used to have a
Yes.
lot of community centers. We used to have these things. It was on a weekly basis. And that's
Mm.
something that kind of kept us strong, because these are things that information flowed, and it helped us mobilize. Anytime something was going on in the community that we didn't like, there was a place that we could easily mobilize and come together and say, hey, this is what we're going to do to put our resources together so that we can collectively deal with this problem.
Mm.
Right. So these are the things that we have to get back to. And one of the things that, it's important are the cultural centers, because it helps us have that space in which we can have daily, weekly, monthly, just meetings, speakers, or whatever, how we want to arrange it. We have a space in which we can do that, which brings us back to ownership. So all these different things are interconnected in the way that we have to kind of get back to the basic principles, which are the people. Because if you don't have a base, if you don't have people, you don't have nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. So, and for us in Hapi, we realized very early on, it's not about us. It's about the collective. I don't need the spotlight. Felicia doesn't need the spotlight. We don't need that. That's not important to us. What's important to us is that we figure out a way how to work with the people that we know to get a mission accomplished, like people like yourself, Professor Smalls, and people that were in the conference, so many others. And I just got to give you some background on that Happy Day of Black Excellence. It really kind of started with wanting to work with do this show with or this event, excuse me, with a fellow filmmaker, Amadeus Christ, his
Yes.
film
I
Out of
know.
Darkness 2. Right.
Yes.
Out of Darkness 2. So it started with that. It started with just kind of putting together a project that kind of showcased both films. Right. So we started with that. And once we realized we had that, we started putting the other building blocks together. So it started with just working with a fellow filmmaker to set that was the foundation of
Mm.
just togetherness. And then the other pieces came in, so it was just built on unity. And once we started doing that, then everything kind of came to, happened.
That's
So
so beautiful.
yeah, and it all, and like I said, and it all starts with that. And if we don't really have that, like I said, the power was seated on the unity. When and I wish I had a picture here to show you. But when they sat on the throne, you can see it. The Hapi was there, and it was based on the unity. There was, if they didn't have the togetherness, if there was no cohesion, there was no power. So, and we got to remember that, and that is the spirit of Hapi. And I was like, wow, it's there. They've been screaming it for thousands of years, screaming it, because they put it in stone. They've been screaming it for thousands of years. There is no power without unity, and we don't realize that. And one of the first methods of destabilizing Africa was division, and looking at ways to have people fight, divide, conquer, all these different things. So we have to get back to just coming together.
This is so powerful, brother, because Even the title actually gives everything that is in it. Like Power in Unity Conference. Yeah, like One Africa, Power in Unity. You could not just like One Africa, one country, but Power in Unity. Everything was just so significant. Everything was um just powerful. Like when I was going through the pictures last month, I like, oh my God, what is Sister Felicia doing? What is Brother Taagiy doing? How are they doing? Just that fact, the memory of us coming back together, not just being on this rail all the time, like we really just like in the village, just come back to the compound. No matter
Mhm.
what happened, no matter we went to schools in the boarding schools, every year, every season, as we finish the schools, we'll be running back to the village in the compound. So Happy is such a place, no matter how we go, do what, we just have to come back to the compound. We have to gather all around and just celebrate and dance. And I mean, I danced some hip hop that day. I was like, wow. It was really, everything was really so fine. Honestly. It was good. So what is gonna happen next,
So
brother?
you know,
I know,
I'll
Felicia, you'll be finding time to come also on Pan African Daily. Show your beautiful face here, sister. Let us plan when you're
I
coming to share your own feedback with us. So.
one of the things that we be remiss if we didn't mention this is that we're also in the time of Hapi. And this is something that was unplanned. I didn't really think about this when we chose the name, and the name started with the name of the film, and it grew. But I realized as we were going into it, we were going from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius, which is Hapi. Hapi is Aquarius. So as we look at that, we see that we are aligned cosmically with the stars, that we are in a time of Hapi. For the next 2,000 some odd years, we are in Hapi.
Mm,
So it's no surprise that these things come together in a way that they're meant to come together,
mm,
right? So because it's not, like I say, there's a power greater than us. The stars are demanding that it happens this way during this time. So
mm,
this is our time to unite, because we are in a time of unification.
mm,
So we need to take advantage of, understand where we are. Like there's a there's a cosmic decree that Happy must be right now. So we are being influenced very strongly by the energy of Happy. And that's something that we have to understand, that where we are right now. So, and Happy, if you look at it, and as I looked at it further, is unity, but it's also unity in abundance, because with
mhm,
that unification comes abundance. And
mhm,
that abundance is the economic piece, because again, the relation economic starts with the relationship between people, and we can't highlight that enough, because if we don't have strong relationships with each other, we are not going to have any economics. It's just not going to work,
mhm, mhm,
or any meaningful economics. Individuals can have it, but as a collective, we're not going to have it if we don't have unity.
mhm. It's our time, and exactly what you're saying, like we need to gather our communities wherever we are. Each people have to take care of their communities first, and then we collaborate on a global scale. I mean, like sometimes we are always thinking, and I think that's one of the mistakes that keeps pulling us back, like always thinking, oh no, like this, there has to come a time where we all have to go back to Africa to make it happen. No, yes, we will have to gather our communities first. Like each person in your neighborhood, in your community, you be that leader. Because the moment we start putting the communities together, it will be easy now for us if we collaborate or network. Like me, I have my whole platform in Europe. You know, our event is called Europe's largest African diaspora event. Is coming up in June. I hope we'll be able to make it to get Happy here. But at each person, or the message is coming that we all have to keep our communities together intact. We have to build our communities. But most often, particularly us in the diaspora or the migrant community, because we still thinking, of course, we know that we have homes, we have background, but we have to gather the communities. And I think that we haven't put a lot of emphasis on it, building these communities now together. You see, everything is just running skelter scatter. Everything, the wars, the confusion is like the earth is bubbling and the foundations are shaking and people actually falling up, like you say. But in the midst of Hapi, we find that balance. So I think it's a good time, like you say, even us coming now to go back to the essence, to remind us where we came from these conferences, what were the values that we stood for. Even in that midst, it was also a terrible time. It was in the midst of COVID. A lot of things we could not travel, the fear, the confusion. That was even the highest challenge. Now we're even kind of like, I think we're even getting more comfortable. It's like the world should be shaking all the time. So, so that we can all together. But I just want to actually applaud or bring back the fact that you say it is power in unity. And it
Yes.
can never be emphasized enough. And there is no end, there's no limit to how much we can sacrifice to make sure that we get this unity done. Doesn't matter how we do it, we must stick on it. Correct.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, we are in the spirit of that time, and it's our time to unify. We just all we got to do is just, again, this is an example of it, and everything that we've built has been built on that. And throughout this some odd 4 or 5 year journey thus far of Hapi, I've realized that I see what it is. I see where it is. I see where it's going, and we just have to continue doing what we do because the spirit of the ancestors, the power of the cosmos are there, and we just have to kind of flow with it. Oftentimes, I say we just kind of flowing with the river. We also realize that Hapi is water, and in its water essence, we can just get on the river and just let it take us where it's going to go because it's going to take us where we need to be.
Oh my God. So, do we have another Acre talk coming up soon?
No, there's nothing planned at the moment. But we are working on some things, and maybe when Sister Felicia comes on, we can have some things kind of ready to talk about. And yeah, I don't want to speak on it right now because we're still kind of planning it. But yeah, hopefully by then everything can be concrete and we can make those announcements.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. So yes, what is it that we should know again before we leave you? What are some of the
Well,
facts
the important thing is,
listen?
in the spirit of togetherness and unity, is staying connected through information. And we want people to sign up for the newsletter. We want people not only to sign up for it, let them start here. We want people to take ownership of the newsletter, right? We want them for it. Those people who haven't or who are not subscribers, we want people to share their ideas, their intellectual thoughts. If they have information that they feel is note or newsworthy, they can share it. They have businesses. We especially look for the businesses because to keep this newspaper going where we need it, we need the economic support. And this is the economic foundation. It's based on advertising and the ads. So people who have business, and listen, it's very moderately priced. For the longest time, for the past 4.5 years, we've always featured a Black business just free of charge, randomly. People we don't even know. Just the fact that we're like what they don't even, and half the time don't even know that we're doing it. We was just doing it. But now to expand it to the level which we need it to be expanded to, we need the people to actively say, hey, and intentionally be a part of it with the ads and say, you know what, I want to advertise my business in here and be a part of this and be a part of the collective Hapi movement. And that would be something that can help this really develop into something greater. Because once we have this in place, now we have the base to do some greater, larger projects. And family, they've seen the images of the One Africa conference and also the Black Excellence Conference and the things that we have planned for the future. And trust me, there's some mega projects that's going to overshadow those in a huge way that's about to happen. So just stay tuned. But in order for us to do these things, we need to really have the economics in place. So I really implore the family, just be a part of it, take ownership of it. You have a business advertising it, you have some intellectual information you want to share that, sign up for it and be a part of the Hapi experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'll also I would share our own news website with you, Brother Taagiy. You can just go on it. Like what I'm saying is this article can go from, should just be everywhere.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they should be everywhere, like on our own news page too, and on the organization page, town, the Africa we want. You can take a look at it also. It's really all about news information, news information. We still kind of like put a lot inside. It's really gonna be mega. It's already mega in itself. So the structure and everything is just about news from the different regions, international, diaspora,
That sounds like exactly what we're looking
something.
for. So what
Exactly.
we can do is we can kind of talk offline and figure out how we can get those articles out
Mm,
in the format, and just because a certain like word limit that we may have, we may have to break it up into pieces if it's something long. But we can definitely talk about that um online and kind of get that published each month, get one of those articles published each month, and we'd love to have that something
mm,
from you to be featured in there. So look
yeah.
forward to that.
Okay. All right. So thank you. I mean,
Thank you so
it's
much.
been nice
Appreciate it.
seeing you again. I hope my sister is. We're going to the next person we're going to have is Felicia. She gives us her own. I mean, from when we come, our female touch. We do our own stuffs and we keep the spirit going. It's been a pleasure to have you to really
Likewise.
reconnect back to the source where you started. Put the light out there, brought us together, and said, "No, guys, we can do this." For the first time, we met for the first time. I can say that's the first conference that connected the continent and its diaspora in an extraordinary spiritual format. Like our ancestors saying, "No, this is the time. You gotta do it." Even when you did everything for me to travel, and it was just there. We never met, but everybody that was supposed to there was just supposed to play a key role in one way or the other. So I think it's also a sign of gratitude, us looking back, thanking everybody that was there physically and spiritually, and to pave the way forward again. So we truly congratulate you. I shared already the happyfilm.com website. Please go on, subscribe to the newsletter and look at it. I go all the time. I think if you look at people who sign in and watch your page, you just see you just if my name was figuring on it, you see all the time, because it's just a spirit of being home there. So thank you so very much, Brother Taagiy. Thank you.
Thank
And
you. Appreciate it. And listen, we're not gonna stay. We've been apart for a while, but there's some things happening now, and we're gonna you listen. You're gonna be seeing a lot more of us. So
okay, thank
yes, that's
you.
it. Thank you so
Good.
much.
Thank you too. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Okay.
bro. So bye. Good
Take care.
night. Thank you, Sister Felicia. Thank you for our donation. We appreciate you. We're gonna keep in touch. Yes. Thank you all. Thank you, my beautiful family. You see what, like we say in Meta or in Pidgin, one hand no fit tie, bundle means no single hand can tie a parcel. I cannot hold a parcel with this hand and tie it again. So we thank you so very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, for actually keeping this spirit alive, keeping these platforms alive, connecting us in a very extraordinary way. Like, imagine if we were just being only, or you tuning, nobody's tuning in. Of course, angels would always be there. One thing I learned from Professor Baina Bello told me one day, say, look, Susan, never ever think that you need to wait for a crowd or to wait for something. If you go somewhere, whether it is in the meeting or it's in a gathering, or you are invited somewhere, or you're supposed to speak somewhere, or you're supposed to teach somewhere as an African in our spirituality, whether it is one person, you start on the time that was scheduled, whether it is one. And I didn't actually understand her in the beginning when she was telling me this. And she went further to explain, say, because we are in the physical and in the spiritual. Whether it's one person that is there, know that that person is representing a whole tribe of ancestors and generations to come. So speak to that one person. The whole message would exactly resonate and reach the thousand of people that was supposed to be there. So what does that make us? It's not about crowd. Me, like now, I'm really sick and tired of crowd. I'd run away from crowds, like because I've seen all sort of crowds in my life. Like I just like even we ask, say, oh, now we need this number of stuff. If they give us that million people, what are you gonna do with them? If you cannot manage 10, you cannot start from the home. You cannot go to your neighborhood. You cannot go to your community. You cannot go to your village. You cannot go to the marketplace. You cannot. What do you want 1 million, 100 million, or billion followers for? What do you want? The essential is start in the small space that you are, and the message would resonate and would fill the whole house, like Professor Baina said. So I think that is what Happy has taught us. The One Africa Conference, people connected from all over the world. Happy did not wait to say, I need 1 million subscribers, I need thousands of followers or highlights or whatever. He believed in the Spirit of God, the creator of our ancestors, and they did it. And now you see all of us today. Most people that listen to me say, oh, no, we know you from the One Africa Conference. Imagine the impact and the value that we create just by coming together in our small spaces. The impact is more than we could understand or we could believe it. That was the first time I saw my queen, Cheryl. Cheryl, we thank you for coming back. Thank you for your courage. We were with you during your challenges. Um, Now you're back stronger. Sister, I know you're a powerful woman. Your power is beyond anything that we can talk about. So we just welcome you back and we salute you here. But it was the first time. But the first time we met with Cheryl is the same impact and the reaction that went everywhere. We just like melted in each other. All the sisters, the brothers, like literally nobody could tell whether somebody was coming for the first time or somebody was coming for the, or like, sometimes we see, but we've been contaminated into a spirit here, out here, that we even meet one another, particularly here in Europe, in Germany, the primitivity level that we at, like, I don't know, the backwardness is crazy. Like we meet each other on the road. Like I really always have to force myself to greet someone that I see. Like, didn't you see me? Like, or I make my like, are you not seeing me? Am I not for you to see me? So those kind of small, how do I want to say, diseases. For me, those are the kind of diseases that are eating us without us being aware. We don't greet each other. Like we really have been contaminated. And that kind of a spirit, like we don't know each other. We frown at each other. We throw a face away when we meet a brother and a sister in the bus stop and the road and something like, particularly when you're driving at the roadside. What is just gotten into us? So Happy is bringing us back on track. The power in unity. The power in unity. What is unity? When I see my brother and my sister, a human being, I recognize that this is a part of me. How could you not see me? As black as I am, as kinky as my hair is, as big as it is, as big as my nose is, how can you not see me? How dare you not see me when we meet in that space? What is it that is blinding you? What is it that is taking the focus out of me from you? What is it that we've just become shy? We look on the, we don't look at each other. Like we behave in a kind of in a creepy way. And we don't even understand that. And we love it even. And we enjoy it. Like we literally love it, like, now that's happy. Power in unity. Going back to the essence of who we are is the business of our culture. That's the economics that we're talking about. And that's the economics that is going to bring us so much power, so much unity, so much love. What do you keep your own part for? Who do you keep it for? Who do you keep it for? Who do you keep your own part of joy? Who stole that joy away from you? What is it that has frozen that happiness, that love, that spirit of wanting one another, wanting? Because when we met at Happy, it was glued on. From the moment I walked into the space in Bronx, New York, I just ran at like I already, me and Sister Felicia, we already has been speaking, going on each other's show. So when I arrived earlier, I was just looking around. Where is she? I want to see a face that look like, and because even the volunteers that were there, I was keep asking. I was just like looking with, and the moment I saw her, you needed to have seen how we cut on each other. That is that thing. If it is missing in you, find it. If you don't have that urge, when you see your fellow brother and sister, you wave your face away, you throw a face, or you frown, or you pretend. You manipulate that energy. You manipulate your way out of it. Like, let it just be that he didn't even see me. Like, we even are so inferior against ourselves that we see a brother and a sister. I'm telling you, particularly here in Europe, in your spaces, you're too many that you cannot even avoid each other. But for us, there is a sickness here that keeps pushing us apart, apart, apart until like you don't see somebody that looks like you or an African, you're even more comfortable that, what is that thing that takes away that wanting me, or I wanting you, or me not being able to look at you, to embrace you, to smile at you, to just find out who you are, how you are doing. It's not much. It doesn't take much. Most of us die even when we're physical. When we're still alive, you're just cut off out of the community. You're killed, you're murdered in your space that, we keep talking about, oh, now it's just a matter of you disappearing from the presence of people. But you never even were important. We never even were valuable, even when in your spiritual form, in the physical form, there was no value added. So all this has to take us back to that spot where it makes a click and we begin to find each other. Oh, I didn't see her today. What happened? When that spirit is not there, you're not getting connected. You don't. And also another one is staying off away. No, I don't want to mingle. No, I don't want to see people. No, I just have my space. There's the latest one, being in my space. I don't want anything. Those are all vocabularies of division. Anything that divides in any format is not African. Anything that divides in any format, in any action, in any form is not African. And we heard Professor James tell us, Patrice Emery Lumumba, the great ancestor of DRC, said, Africanize every situation, Africanize every word, every mind, every thought, every deed, every action, Africanize it. Before you make a move, think, what is the African spices inside here? If not, that is not African. So we need to continuously remind ourselves, drink our water, mind our business. How often do we meditate again? Do we stay in our African consciousness? Or we've just been picked up and distracted with this. Another distraction is this Facebook, social media. We use it, we like it, we do it, but be conscious how you use it. It literally sucks your energy. Like honestly, like somebody can scream in your presence, you will not even hear that person. This is one of the biggest weapons of divisionness, even though they call it social. I literally just not begin to find, if you cannot identify those things, if you cannot identify those things that connect us and still keep you human to your values, we are draining literally away. You look at platforms that we even create, like anybody is just posting. Nobody even cares whether somebody reads, somebody doesn't read, somebody just like in a functional way that we are not conscious. So we need to pull back. We need to have time. We need to think. We need to just stay in a moment, in the darkness, in the blackness, in the melanin, and don't see anything around you, but just see only your energy and your spirituality. Just close everything, shut out the light and everything, because at some point it's all a distraction. Be in the space of oneness and connect to what is valuable. Do you still hear laughters of children? Do you still feel that? Because we are literally killing and becoming smaller, 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 like our brother Taagiy just said. Our spaces are becoming too small. Even if you look at the way we started, oh, houses were bigger, villages were bigger, mortgages were bigger. We needed space. We bought cars that could carry the whole family. No, everything becomes smaller, smaller. And the more your space becomes smaller, the more you feel spatial. Does it make sense? And that's why they create Lamborghinis, create private jets, creates some kind of systems that only has to divide. And it's so sick, because in that system, anything happens to you, you don't have even support. Where are you going to get support? That is why most of what we call luxurious goods are only coffins that have been craved to keep us lonely. That's why a Lamborghini or all this podcast has only one seat. And it's so lonely, very lonely. That is not African. We never built houses, we had compounds. There's no way that you go to, because of the wars in most of our villages, people have deserted the villages and they are in other neighborhoods or that, but you would never have found a compound without children. How does it come? How did you feel? Like in the village, they will say, you eat alone, you're a witch. You live alone, you're a witch. Like literally, you do things alone. Something is not normal with you. But you see, in the so-called civilized world, the more you live alone, the more it's lifestyle. The more I have my space. We begin to ask the creator, what if he had just made just one person on the universe, one tree, one something? How would this multitude of all the elements been like? We need to wake up. We've been so focused on political things or wars that have been there, and we forgot the essence of our unity, of what unites us together, on the power in unity. Even we talk about, yes, it's good to talk about them. We have platforms for that, but what unites us is more stronger. We are bigger than the little wars that define us as Africans. The war in Congo, the war in Southern Cameroon, the war in Sudan, the war in this is smaller. How come we make it so big, more than what unites us, more than the joy of our spaces? How can we work much better? So as we go back to our homes, as we go back to our own spaces, please do not think you are alone because, or you need to live in a mansion alone and feel like, no. Just like how the Christians, the Bible say, the devil, what he does is trick you, derail you, cut you off from everything so that they can actually now manipulate and kill you because you have no support system. That's actually what means keeping my space. No, I have my space. I have my space. I just need my peace. You choose a graveyard for peace? No, what is bothering you? Anything that makes you to hate humanity, hate the cries of baby, hate the sound of the wind, hate the rains that falls on your ceilings. Something is just not right. Begin to think, because most often we look at mental illnesses or some other things. And that's why once you begin to react like that, then you understand something is not right with you mentally. To be honest with you, if you choose loneliness, if is it not that something is really there, that maybe you're busy or doing something, but you're fulfilled. You understand? You're fulfilled in your spirit. You are enough. You are happy. You can be alone. When I said alone, not because you need to be with million people around you, but the joy and the fulfillment and the contentment. I know a lot of cases that people, oh no, I don't want to see, no, I'm so tired of it. I'm just, no, you can be. So please, my beloved, it is time that we go back to the essence of actually what connects us. It's much bigger than what divides us. You see, the moment we start begin to climb those ladders, the moment trust start coming in, the moment we don't even know each other, people that we used to trust, people that we thought knew us, people that we thought we were together, they just become suddenly strange. We just become suddenly strange to each other. And the more the barriers, the more we're going to finally disappear with nobody even hearing a trace about you. Look at the lives of those that think everything that we do has to has with money and everything. At a certain point, you cannot talk with money or live with it. We do need it for our communities to share with one another, but not to amass it. So we have to come back to the basis. So I want to thank you so very much. At one time, I was so long that all of a sudden I became an introvert. It can get hard, Dr. Tata. I agree. I'm telling you, it can get so hard, particularly when we are on these legacy projects. That's why I was asking some of those questions to our brother. Why is it when people seem like they're not even being successful? You're just doing your work, you're doing your mission. Why do you become a target? Why is it, why is everything controversial? Have we ever thought about that? So probably success is not what success is literally supposed to be. I think us in our ability to connect, unite at our humble things that we do, that is truly success. Because if we put success in the way the world has defined success into being rich, being able to purchase everything or feel comfortable, and then attract all the enemies around you, even when you're dying, and people still think that maybe no, it's because you are like, where does that spirit come from? We need to reconnect back to our source. Because when we cut off, you know who is going to cut us off. That's why we suffer. So I want to thank you so very much. And we are going to connect. So I don't know who, definitely will not be having a live conversation. But I definitely guess on Thursday we'll be having a guest. And let us gather again here when you have time. Please check out some of the old videos on our channel. At the time when we really did not have anything, we didn't even have space to breathe. We all gathered here, and that was when we had some of the deepest messages, when we truly were humble, when we were open. But sometimes we're getting more comfortable, and that's why we begin to talk only about things that actually divide us. So if you're new, it's worth it for you to go back on the YouTube channel of Pan African Daily. Just not watch only the videos that we do now, but the past videos. You can see a lot of them there. I think we have about 900 and something. Most of them were deleted, but you can still go back to those sources in those days where we used to come live and there was no light in the beginnings. And this 2021s, 2020s, 2022 with the Hapi will come live and there is no light and nobody's going anywhere. But now we have the perfect technology. You can hear me, I can hear. There were times you could not even see my face. We could not even hear each other. Broken cameras, noise, everything. But we were so intact. We didn't even notice those differences. We didn't even see it. We didn't even see technical challenges, technical this. So it's us. The more we become comfortable, the more we forget our roots and what actually connects us. Not that we should not, but it's time. So I want to thank you and greet you back here. We're going to meet again. If there's a show coming up tomorrow, I'll happily be here. Yes, we don't want to get contaminated again with all the colds, the flus, the everything. I mean, all of us have suffered. I really was attacked. I was on attack for more than a couple of 3 weeks and more. And yeah, but getting back, as you can hear, it's still there, but we just don't act like it's there. So, my beloved, thank you guys, and I wish you whatever you're doing, whatever you wish for yourself, let it just happen as you want it. Because my wishes for you is that you be fulfilled, you be happy, you be satisfied, you just be enough, you be abundance in anything that you see. If it was little, it has to be just so much for you. All right. If it was so much, you can share it with somebody else. And please don't forget to visit our website and give us a feedback on how you see. What is it? Are there things missing? There's still a lot that is coming up on that website, theafricawewant.com. There's still testings and stuff like donations forms or membership forms that we put in and put in the payment method. Some did not work, or most did not work. Now we go back to the direct transfer mechanism on it. You would see all those things. Go through the pages, even the past news. Don't just click on one news article. Look at the previous one under that category. You're going to see a lot that is coming out there. And most of the time, when Soto said thanks to Fauci, no, please. Soto, warrior now. No, no, no thanks to him. Okay. No thanks to him. We don't want it. Oh yeah, we need to drink the water. I can see my lips are all dried. Everything is dry. Yeah, it is. It is. So please check on our website, give us a lot of feedbacks. What are the categories that we need to include a lot? And like Brother Happy is saying, now this news platforms that we're building is it's not just to share, but it's education and keeping us focused. All right, like where do I get my news sources matters a lot. Who feeds you with the information that you need to know about your own self, because the message is so manipulative, my brothers and sisters. I never knew it until we got on this journey. I'm telling you, read a statement, it looks like it's correct, but if you're not conscious and your eyes are not open, it's just totally something else. So please, we have to know what kind of news pages or who gives us our news is very important. So I'm just going to put it here. I've been putting it all the time. It's also rolling here, africawewant.com. And please give us your feedback. And a lot is still going to come. We're working for those of you that have been asking about the Omoja Africa Festival coming up in June in Germany. Yes, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like we say, we walk with the spirit of the ancestors. Everything. Sometimes we put some information. It's not. Oh, we have to wait. We have to listen. We are not by ourselves. Okay, you know that. Just so you know. But everything is in place, and you'll get the right information at the right time. So thank you, my beloved family. We see us some other time. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you. Yes, I really would be drinking my water. Immediately I go off this show, I'm going to drink a whole liter. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, we see us tomorrow. And God bless you. Stay fine, stay sweet, stay sufficient, and stay Africanized. Okay. Stay Africanized. Ancient Future said Dr. Arikana would be. Dr. Arikana has always been a part here. Everybody that you people are seeing on this show, the Happies or whoever, there's nobody that has never been a part of this Pan African Daily TV. People busy in their own stuff, doing their own things, and we really are not again just talking. We all know what is on the ground. People are more busy in the backgrounds, but what we are doing on Pan African Daily, like a university, a cultural center, cultural education, informing our young people, keeping the connections between us alive. It's not really about who brings a message here. We know all these individuals, we know their platforms as well. And sometimes, we love to just be spoken to and we just enjoy it. No, do your homework. Do our research. Come and be a guest as well. All right. Yes. So thank you. Thank you, Enshin. I was not really actually, I just say generally, as a matter of disclaimer, every speaker that belongs to us has been here, and those that will still be chosen to teach us and to be here. All right. So as we celebrate each other, and we say good night. Thank you all. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.